Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission, as always, is to cut through the noise, take all that information you send us, and give you clear, focused knowledge. Today, we're tackling something that's, well, it's everywhere in the fitness community lately. Lots of buzz, maybe some whispers. Ibutamoren. You probably know it as MK-677.
Yeah, and this is a really important one for you, the listener, to get your head around. Because MK-677 gets pushed hard, claims of amazing results, fast muscle, quick recovery. But the stuff we looked at really forces us to weigh that hype against some pretty specific and potentially serious health risks. So we're breaking down what it is, how it messes with your body's hormones, and why you absolutely need to be cautious.
Definitely. And we have to start with that one quote we found, the one that kind of framed this whole thing for us. It said something like, "The results can be astonishing, but know the risks if you don't want to look like a potato."
Yeah, that's pretty blunt, isn't it? But it perfectly sums up the trade-off. It tells you straight up that the gains might come, but often with some really obvious unwanted side effects if you aren't incredibly rigid with your diet and everything else. Puts all the pressure on the user, really.
Okay, let's get into the science bit then. For anyone just hearing MK-677, what is it? How does it work in simple terms? What's the chain reaction here?
Right, so the simple version, MK-677, is a growth hormone secretagogue. Now, that word secretagogue, it's key. It means it's not growth hormone itself, like you'd inject. It basically tells your own body to secrete or, release more of its own growth hormone.
Okay. So it's not the hormone, it's more like the instruction, telling your body's own system to ramp up.
Yeah.
What the big difference compared to, say, actual hormone therapy or steroids?
Exactly. That's the crucial distinction. And the way it sends that signal is by hitting the receptor for a hormone called ghrelin. Now, ghrelin, most people know it as the hunger hormone, right? Comes from the stomach, tells your brain you're hungry, but it has another job. When MK-677 activates those ghrelin receptors, it triggers a big pulsing release of both growth hormone, GH, and then, because of the GH increase, insulin-like growth factor 1, or IGF-1.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're kind of hijacking the hunger pathway to boost the growth pathway.
Yeah.
And for fitness, GH and IGF-1, those are the big players for building muscle and recovery, yeah.
They're the heavy hitters, absolutely. GH and IGF-1 are fundamental for, repairing tissues, building new cells, which means they're critical if you want to put on lean muscle, maybe burn some fat, and definitely recover faster from tough workouts. You can see why athletes or bodybuilders would be interested.
And that takes us straight to what seems like its biggest selling point. The reason it kind of blew up, our sources kept pointing out this claim, MK-677 apparently doesn't mess with your testosterone or estrogen levels, not like traditional steroids do.
That is absolutely the core of the hype. It offers this idea that you can get that boosted anabolic state, faster recovery, more size, without the fear of, say, shutting down your natural testosterone production. The HPG axis shutdown, that's a major, major downside of steroid cycles. So MK-677 feels like a less risky option in that specific way. And that's where the danger starts, that perception.
Okay, we've got the mechanism, we've got the promise. Let's talk results. What are people actually reporting? What positive effects are they looking for? And importantly, how fast does this stuff supposedly work?
Well, the reports on the anabolic side are pretty consistent. Users talk about putting on noticeable lean mass, recovery improving dramatically. Some sources even mention benefits for bone density if it's used correctly over time. And going back to ghrelin, the hunger increase makes it way easier to eat more, which is obviously a plus if you're trying to bulk up.
And the speed seems crucial here. That idea of a quick win. We saw notes that some studies, maybe early ones, suggest people see real, tangible results, more muscle, more energy, just feeling stronger in maybe just 2 months.
2 months. Yeah, that's incredibly fast in biological terms. And you can see how that immediate feedback, feeling stronger, recovering quicker, seeing changes, creates this really powerful reinforcement loop. It makes people think, okay, this shortcut works, and maybe ignore the warnings because the immediate payoff feels so good.
That speed sounds tempting. Definitely. But like we always say, if something sounds that good, you got to flip the coin. Let's talk risk. We started with the potato warning. What are the immediate physical downsides people run into?
Right, back to ghrelin again. The first thing, and it's super common, is just how hungry you get. It's not a little peckish, it's apparently quite intense, constant hunger, which means if your diet discipline slips even a tiny bit, you're going to overeat. Guaranteed. And if the goal is muscle, you'll likely end up gaining fat right along with it.
So the very thing that helps recovery also makes you ravenous, potentially pushing you towards fat gain if you're not super careful. Hence the potato look.
Exactly. And adding to that look is the fluid retention. Water bloat or edema is really common when GH and IGF-1 levels shoot up like that. So instead of looking lean and defined, users often just look kind of puffy, soft, swollen. That's the potato aesthetic. Plus, we see reports of just general discomfort. Some people get joint pain, others stomach issues as their body tries to adapt.
Okay, so that's the discomfort, the aesthetic issues. Now let's shift to the really serious stuff, the systemic health problems. This is where that mandatory caution really comes in. What's the absolute biggest long-term risk?
The number one most critical warning is about your metabolism, specifically the risk of diabetes. Here's the mechanism. Because MK-677 jacks up growth hormones so much, GH acts as what we call a counter-regulatory hormone.
Counter-regulatory. What does that mean for the person taking it, practically speaking?
It means that growth hormone actively works against insulin. So while insulin is trying to get sugar, glucose out of your blood and into your cells for energy, the super high GH levels are basically making your cells ignore that insulin signal. They become less sensitive. Over time, this forces your body into a state of insulin resistance.
And that means blood sugar stays high.
Exactly. Blood sugar levels consistently run higher than they should. And you have high blood sugar, plus the body's struggling to deal with it.
Wow. That sounds like, well, like the direct path to a serious lifelong condition.
It absolutely is. That combination dramatically increases the documented risk of developing type 2 diabetes. It's a fundamental shift in how your body handles energy. And one source specifically mentioned this is a huge concern in places like India, for example, where diabetes rates are already climbing fast. This isn't just a temporary side effect you can ride out, it's playing with fire, metabolically speaking.
And, earlier we talked about the big appeal being that it supposedly leaves testosterone and estrogen alone. That was the main selling point versus steroids. But it sounds like even that might not be totally true.
Well, that's where you need that healthy skepticism, right?
Yeah.
Even though the direct mechanism seems to bypass those hormones, the body's hormonal system is incredibly complex. It's like an ecosystem.
Yeah.
You pull one lever really hard, in this case, GH via ghrelin, and you often get unexpected ripples elsewhere. So, yeah, despite the theory, we see user reports mentioning mood swings, feeling emotionally volatile, and sometimes, yes, even issues cropping up with their natural testosterone levels. It's not always as clean a separation as advertised.
Okay, finally, let's bring it back to the official stance. Given all these effects, these serious risks, where does MK-677 actually stand? Legally, medically, in sports?
It's crystal clear, really, and it hammers home the caution. Fact one, it is absolutely banned for athletes. WADA, USADA, all the major anti-doping agencies listed as prohibited. Fact two, it is not approved for human medical use by the FDA, EMA, or any major regulatory body. It's still technically a research chemical. That means its long-term effects in large populations just aren't fully understood or signed off on by doctors.
Which brings us right back to that core truth we found in the sources, the one we really need to stress for you listening. True, lasting fitness results always come down to the basics. Consistent hard work, dialed-in diet, good habits, that's the foundation. Shortcuts, like MK-677, as the source said, might bring problems later on.
And that leads to the only sensible advice here. The potential risks, especially messing with your lifelong metabolic health, are just too high for self-experimentation. Anyone, and I mean anyone, even thinking about using something this powerful needs to, first and foremost, talk to a doctor. A medical professional who actually understands the substance and your personal health situation, period. Like the source said, better safe than sorry.
So let's pull it all together. What we have is this potent substance that triggers ghrelin, leading to big spikes in GH and IGF-1. And that offers the promise of, potentially astonishing muscle in strength games, maybe really fast.
But, it's a huge but. That promise is bundled with severe specific risks driving insulin resistance, the real danger of type 2 diabetes. And on top of that, you need perfect discipline just to avoid looking bloated or gaining unwanted fat. That long-term health gamble might be a terrible trade for short-term gains.
Which leaves us with this final thought for you to chew on. If this supposed shortcut demands absolute perfection in your diet and lifestyle, just to stop it from causing harm like metabolic damage or making you look puffy, is it really a shortcut at all? Or is it just a really risky, potentially very costly way to force yourself to do the foundational things right anyway, only now with a massive health liability attached? Something to think about next time you hear about a miracle compound.